Welcome to Ivey's new venture project. In this episode, we're going to talk about the second step, market segmentation. It's about figuring out who your customers are and dividing them into groups that you can target with a relatively small marketing budget. Step 1, define your customers precisely. Here's what I want you to do. Close your eyes and try to imagine the person out there who feels the pain or the problem you're trying to solve. Try to describe them right down to their toenails. What do they look like? What's their age, their gender, their income? What do they read? How do they get their information? How do they think? The more detailed the information, the more detailed profile you can build. Step 2, segment your customers into groups. You have multiple types of customers. Step 3, estimate the total size of the market. Segment and define your market size, assuming you have a small marketing budget. About 90% of new businesses start with, on average, about $10,000. And that means you can't target millennials in your target market. You have to narrow the group, and the smaller the group, the better. Now, let's get to defining individual customers right down to their toenails. I want you to think very carefully about who they are, how they think, how they buy their products, why they buy their products, where they get their information, and who influences their opinion. Build your profile on research, for example, through customer surveys, which are a requirement for the new venture project. For example, you can conduct interviews, focus groups, etc. Don't guess and don't stereotype. The next step is to estimate the total market. This is the universe of customers anywhere in the world that have the problem you describe. It's really important to begin with an accurate estimate of the size of this particular market. The next step is to think about the serviceable market. The serviceable market is actually the total number of customers out there in the universe that you can actually reach with your new venture. For example, if there's 300 million people in your customer group in the total worldwide market, but you're going to get your business up here in London, or you might only be able to target as an early startup only the customers in Canada. The most important step, though, is defining your target markets. Target markets are 1 to 3 groups of customers that you will absolutely target the day you open with your very tiny $10,000 budget. So, you want to think in terms of targeting your customer groups very carefully. Now, let's get to segmenting into target markets. There are many options to segment your market, and you can explore the following options. Geographic segments. Group customers by region, country, urban or rural, neighborhood, etc. Demographic segments. Group customers by ethnicity, age, gender, income levels, educational attainment, etc. Psychographic segments. Group customers by lifestyle, personality, how they think, their beliefs, preferences, cognitive view of the world, etc. Behavioral segments. Group customers by when, why, or how they buy or use products and services. You can also consider segmenting B2B markets as well. Remember, this approach tends to be complex and usually industry specific. Some general considerations in B2B markets are segmenting by organizational type and size. Example, multinational versus small business versus family owned. Segmenting by industry and geographic location. Example, banking in Toronto. Segmenting by decision-making process. Example, individuals, committees, levels of approvals, etc. Segmenting by behavior. Example, price sensitivity, delivery sensitivity, quantity sensitivity. Segmenting by product or service preference. Example, quality, specific features, privacy, security. So now, let's get to estimating the total size of the market. Ask yourself, how many customers are there? The total market, the serviceable market, and in each target market itself. How many might versus will buy your product or service in each target market and at what price? How big is your projected market share, your penetration rate? How many estimated customers will you get? Again, assume that you have a tiny marketing budget of around $10,000. You can build your estimates from census data, market reports, and your own calculations, or what I would like to call swags. Swags equal sophisticated or scientific wild-ass guess. For example, there are 38 million Canadians, and we can assume that 1 in 10 of them have a certain situation that makes them a good customer. Maybe they experience the problem, or they know people who have a problem, and you can start making some rough estimates of how big the market actually is. Now, having the right number is not as important as explaining the stories on how you got there. Be prepared to explain to your investors how you came up with these numbers. So, for example, you might say, this is a penetration rate achieved by another startup like us, so it's a sort of comparative comparison. Or, it's basically built up our numbers based on unit sales. Now, this will be further discussed in the financial modeling session. So in summary, remember to define your customers precisely, segment your customers into groups, and estimate the total size of the market. Do a lot of good research and don't guess. If you have to, you can actually make a rough estimate or guess as to the size of these, give us a ballpark sense of the target size of the target. So, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in our next episode.